God bless you guys. This is Sean here. Just go back and watch my last video if you haven't, guys. It is a powerful dream, that I had. And this reveals revelation. This is in the scriptures. That mountain that I saw in the dream was Samaria, and it represents the entire world, what they've done. But the mountain is going to be split in two, and I just saw a vision of that. And there was two, and then it's going to be split again, because the great city of the harlot is divided into three parts. But when it's split again, see the other half of that mountain, check that out, the other half of that mountain is going to be split. Those are for the two witnesses of the Lord. And they're going to be some of them that sin. They're going to, I saw a vision of them. After that mountain was split, I saw a vision of it falling down on the two ends. But then it was split again, the other side of it where the two witnesses are, and they rose up like twin towers. But the same way I saw that that mountain that they went in to defile the first time before it was split, the world, they're going to go into the bodies of some of the two witnesses, the people that live in that, to defile it. There are going to be some people in there that are holy that aren't defiled, and they're going to escape that. But the people that have to be killed are the two witnesses. Yeshua did tell me they're like Samson and the other people. He told me that in the dream, that if they sinned on that day, they would be caught. If they were caught in sin on that day, they would be caught, and taken by the Antichrist. They'd have to lay down their life for their faith. But I saw that being split, and so that also represents the 2/3 that are struck down and are going to die. Those two witnesses that die, they die in the manner of their sin, but they do go to heaven if they die for their sin. But I'm just saying they were kind of a picture to the wicked, that they're going to perish, and the wicked that remained, because we are going to remain as children of God in the end. I mean, and I know this may sound confusing, but yeah, it's going to be split, and it falls open, and then it's split again for two witnesses, and they're going to rise up like twin towers and judge the world. But Satan is going to get into those two bodies through those two doors and get in, is those that sin on this side those that sin on that side of the mountain. And these are written in Zechariah, that the mountain's going to be split. And he showed me this. And he also showed me this one that I was laying down flat. It also did something. Picture a torso of a body, guys, being split. And it falls down, and the half of it, almost like the half of a moon I saw, because that's the base of it. When that mountain is split, I saw it almost like half of a moon, because the moon represents the body, even we know that in scripture. And even ancient religions try to do that. And so I saw it represented like this. And it turned upside down. Or, yeah, you picture like this. It's laying flat and then the moon. So it's cut. I saw it turning over. And the part that was turning over, and it was laying flat now. The base of it laying up. I saw it carve up this way. Like it turned into a triangle. And there was an all-seeing eye in it of Lucifer. But practically speaking, when it's represented as a mountain, it's also going to grow up to a certain height. And I saw 4 horns coming up on it. And these are the 4 horns, the 4 pictures of the devil, the 4 beasts of the book of Daniel and Revelation. The lion, the bear, the leopard, and the other one, a 4th beast. And so that entire mountain is going to be on that other half of the city. It's going to grow up, as it were, the world, to be the body of that beast you see in the book of Revelation, because out of that body of the world is going to come the world government. And like I said, you saw those 4 parts, different 4 parts on it, a lion and everything. And so he just showed me a great vision of that, and this is incredible. I saw women hanging up there. I didn't mention the last vision, naked, and they were about to be roasted. They were hanging upside down, and their parts were kind of hidden at the angle. I couldn't see everything, but because, God hides that stuff, and everything to keep our purity. But they were hung upside down, and they were crying in the cold, and they were about to be roasted like chickens. They were hanging upside down, like by their fours, their hands, and their 2 legs. You can picture, like you could picture the 2 legs and the 2 arms of a lamb turned upside down, and those limbs, and they're tied, And they look like that. They were about to be roasted. And so those who live on that side of the mountain, in those days when the earth is divided, they live on that side of that mountain, the world, that side of the world, they're going to be caught by the Antichrist. And it's picturing a sacrifice roasting, and their blood spilled on one of those 4 horns of that altar. That's the 4 pictures of the devil, the Antichrist. mouth like a lion, speaking blasphemous things, his feet like a bear, you know, that can trample, you know, trampling the blood of the children of God. And then the body of a leopard, and a leopard, the way he moves, you know, with his body. And he's very, crouches and attacks his prey. He's very patient. They lurk in the shadows like a leopard. And that's in the Bible. A leopard will watch over the cities for evil. And so that's what it represents. And then that fourth beast, dreadful and terrifying. And he's going to give me a good picture of that. But we've seen it representative. And the dragon gives it its power. But it really represents that fourth one. Represents that entire whole mountain. That's why it's able to subdue the three who are before it. And it says that this one king will subdue three kings who are before him. And that's kind of what that represents. And I also saw children, and inside of this mountain, before it was divided, that whole mountain, you know, where that unicorn was sticking up there, that beast, you know, that was an evil beast. Well, I saw it covered, like in the movie Legend, that they went into that place of legend. That's what that mountain represented. Inside of it, the world is turned into hell. And it was red, dark red. And I could see, let me see if I can get it. I could see a picture like this. Well, I'm just saying it was round. It wasn't in the shape of this, but you can just picture a picture, and I could see it pouring out milk, and everything was blood red, including the picture in that cave or whatever it was, you know. It looked like the world Legend lived in, except it was blood red, dark blood red like Legend, and it was pouring out milk. And then I saw a drop of honey come from the beak of almost a dragon or some kind of evil-looking bird that was carved into the ceiling of that cavern or cave inside of a rock, you know. And it dripped honey. The honey went into the milk, and it went swirls. And before that, the children, I saw it come into that inside of that mountain, and they were playing in it. And playing that milk was like watching them, and they were drinking it. They were playing in it, and so happy, you know. The devil's evil nourishment, you know, of the pleasures of sin. And I saw the honey, you know, like as of the harlot, it came out of that beak of that bird. Birds represent worship, like evil worship. It went in and it started swirling. And so now you see the yellow golden honey like gold and the white like milk, and they're playing in it. Which was weird because before I had seen, when I first saw that pot that looked red, it reminded me of this character called Shakuamon, a Digimon. And he was white and golden. And so after I saw that, I was like, that's why I saw him shaped like that. And he represented fortune and good luck in a false prosperity gospel. The land flowing with milk and honey in this life, you know. And so it represented that Buddhism and Taoism. And that's why it kind of had that Buddhist picture. My brother also has a Buddhist figure that is blood red. And just like that. But represented that. And that blood red of murder. And it was an evil thing that I saw. And like I said, guys, when I saw the dream yesterday, when I was in this principal, I saw Doc Ock was actually the principal of this place. He was the principal. And Doc Ock, an octopus, representing 8 sides because it says the 8th, he's you know, he's of the 7 and goes into perdition, you know, the Antichrist. He represented that beast. And he, you know, I come to find out on Earth 16 or something like that, in the comic books, Octavius actually owns a school that Peter Parker goes to. It's called Octavia High, or Octavius High or something like that. And so it was a school of higher learning, and I told you in the classroom was Elliot Spencer. He kind of had that same eloquence as Doc Ock, and Elliot Spencer is a pinhead, guys. And so Doc Ock having those 8 parts represented those 7 kings that the Antichrist is going to have. You remember the seven horns in the book of Revelation that the Antichrist will have? That's why he showed me Doc Ock looking like that. That's the same reason. He was the principal because it says God will raise up 7 shepherds of the Lord and 8 principal men, but he was 8 principal men of the Antichrist. He was the 8th king that had those 7 because Satan wants to play God. So this is in the scripture, the 8 principal men. And so Doc Ock being the principal of the place. And they even made him like that, having his school like that. And see if I can remember everything else. I saw Pinhead divided into two parts because the false prophet has two horns, you know, and on his head, you know, kings of Media and Persia, it says, in the book of Daniel. And it's also like Sodom and Egypt, you know, the world and the sinners of the world who sit in it. And see if I can remember. I saw 17 demons, including Pinhead, in hell. After I counted later on, they lined up perfectly with the book of Galatians. Each one of those demons lined up perfectly with the sins that described them perfectly. They were for the 7 heads and 10 horns, which are both described as kings in the Bible. Satan, he showed me the reason why he has 17 kings altogether. When you count it, 17 kings, 7 and 10 kings, is because it is said there's given 70 years for the people of God to finish their transgression. And this is connected to the Sabbath also. Connected to the Sabbath. Check this out. The Sabbath represents rest. Not doing any work, which is to not sin at all. Resting from the work of iniquity. The works of man are iniquity. And so that's where that 7 comes from. Where the 10 comes from is because God told us, see if I can remember, he said if he could find 10 men in the city, even Abraham, they say he's only faith only. He was looking for 10 men for God not to destroy the city. They represent the 10 few that keep the 10 commandments, so to speak. And Yeshua, when he told a man, well, I'll go into that in a second about the 10 commandments. I'll explain that because I know there's a lot of bickering and fighting, and I'm going to explain that also. So just stay with me here, but get this 7 and 10 thing. So, you know, the 7 represents that 7th day of the Sabbath and not sinning at all, not sinning of any kind. And you times the 7 times the 10, the 7 spirits of God, you know, the 7th day of rest, not working, and then you have these 10 commandments, it comes up to 70. And Yeshua, his whole work when he did on the cross, that was like the 7th day saying, it is finished. And it's told we have 70 years to finish the transgression, and that's what that represented, that 7 times 10, you know, that 7th day of rest, not sinning in those 10 commandments, you know, doing that in that rest. That's what it represented. Those 10 men, few men that he couldn't find, were like his 10 kings who would have, so to speak, been his 10 horns. And the 7 heads, you know, his 7 kings are like the 7 over the 7 churches, you know. But the problem is, one of them was a lukewarm, you know, so you're going to lose one. You're going to only have 6 and 10. And check that out. I preached on the 10th month, October, on the 6th day. I preached. And if this thing happens, I know December, for sure, it is the 10th month. It said that the great city, the harlots, divided into 3 parts, like I just mentioned, and a 10th of the city fell. And it's going to happen, there's going to be the 10th month when we're done preaching, guys. The 10th month. It's going to happen in the 10th month when the 2 witnesses are slayed. So that's going to happen in the 10th month. When that happens, a 10th of the city is going to fall. There's going to be 7,000 slain, and there's that 7 for you. That's 7 times 1,000. And God has 1,000 cattle, a cattle on 1,000 hills, and so you could picture almost 1,000 times 7, you know. And these numbers are biblical, guys. These 17 kings, and one of them was Pinhead, showed he possessed the power of the first beast, you know. Like it says, the second beast, he possesses all the power of the first beast. So he also has 7 and 10 horns. So while Doc Ock is a principal representing the beast, Pinhead in my dream was like the false prophet, you know, and he was teaching them. He was teaching them. And because that's what prophets do, they teach, you know. He was teaching them. And so, and the 2 horns, that's why I saw them divided also. And Pinhead representing crucifixion of the mind, you know. And that false fire that came up. He was a cold man. He's called a cold man. He's called the hell priest. He's called the Black Pope. And so many people wondered, is the false prophet the Pope or some Pope? And I have to tell you the truth, I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know, but it could very well be. But I saw him, you know, he's going to be religious type, you know, political. He would be kind of like the Pope if he was, you know, but, so those 17 kings represent those 7 heads and 10 horns I saw, guys. And the venom, there's 17 works of the flesh. They each represent a work of the flesh, guys, in the book of Revelation. They each represent that, guys. Venom represents uncleanness of the mouth, because I saw 17 demons. I didn't count how they were. I just wrote them down in the order I saw them. Then I took them, counted them. I was like, whoa, 17. And then I lined them up with the book of Galatians, because the Holy Spirit reminded me of the 17 works of the flesh, and they lined up perfectly. You had, see if I can remember the order. Well, first you had Candyman and hell after Spencer Elliott took them to hell. And Candyman represented, adultery. Because original Candyman committed adultery. Somebody that was not his wife took another man's wife. Or I should say another father's daughter, you know. But it did represent adultery. Because that is what adultery is, the lust of the eyes. You know, somebody that's not your wife. It certainly wasn't his wife. Adultery. Second person I saw. There was the Witch of Oz, the Green Witch of Oz. She represented fornication. Because I saw Jackie's on that 70s show. You know, she played the witch. I saw her version of it. And you find out she was, you know, into... on that 70s show, she was a big fornicator. And they even show in the new movie of Oz, she plays a person who's so in love with that one man, but it's like lust, you know, because he's kissing every girl and she's just another one. She's not married to him. And she eats of that apple because she's so angry, turns her skin green. She's so angry because her rejected lover, and it talks about in scriptures about the rejected lovers they went after, you know, they couldn't overtake them. And she represented fornication. And the next thing I saw is her mouth of venom. And it says that the sin of uncleanness. That's represented, the venom of uncleanness. That the venom is for the mouth. The unclean things that come out of the mouth. Yeshua said it's not what goes into you that defiles you, but what comes out, you know. That makes you unclean. So the uncleanness of venom. And that's why the beast has the mouth of a lion. He has that mouth of venom, you could also say, speaking ugly and evil things. And, then after him, I saw carnage. After uncleanness is mentioned, lasciviousness, and it's talked about when you see it like offensive perversion. That's what when you look up lasciviousness. Well, that's what I saw. Well, he's very perverted and he's offensively perverted. You know, he took a bite out of that guy's blood and he was acting like he was flirting with him, almost in a gay homosexual way, and perverting the grace of God, guys. The woman of the body of the world, you know, the woman of the church as a woman is trying to lord herself over the man, which is the God type. And I'm speaking spiritually here. The church is trying to tell God what his commandments are and what they should do and what they should not do. They're trying to lord themselves over him. And so that's what represents lasciviousness, that venom. And then the next person I saw when she went down, let's see if I can remember, because these were 17 of them. Like I said, I wrote them all down. Lasciviousness. They went all the way down to the end. I saw Elijah Glass, and see if I can remember the word. It's the word for idolatry. It represents, I believe it did say idolatry. And Elijah Glass from Unbreakable, he was doing all these things to find a person that was strong, not as breakable like him, that was strong, almost like he was looking for a savior to redeem himself, redeem his own faith in humanity or whatever. But he did everything he could. And the next person I saw was Spider-Man and witchcraft. And that's a very powerful symbol of the occult used to control people. And it talks about rebellion as like the sin of witchcraft. But it was witchcraft that I saw in the form of him. And he was laughing. And witchcraft is the symbol of the spider. And then the next person was It the Clown. Because It the Clown also is like a clown crab spider, so he morphed in that in the appearance in the dream. But It the Clown is incredibly hateful. But, well, that next sin is hatred listed. He's incredibly hateful. You can see how hateful this beast is. There's nobody that seems more hateful to me than Tim Curry's his version, or, you know, any of them really. But Tim Curry seemed very hateful as that. He also played the devil, basically, in Legend. And then the next one, let's see if I can remember correctly. Was it the Horseman? Yeah, it was a Horseman. The Horseman of variance. It means like disagreements. And Christopher Walken, who played the Horseman, you know, he has that disagreeing attitude that he could stand up, he could just oppose you and look you right in the eyes, you know, and you'd feel intimidated maybe by him. He has that disagreeing attitude. In one movie, he stalked his father's killer until to make him kill himself. He stalked him. He also, as a horseman, went into a land that was not his own for a disagreement between England and America to keep them out of England. He was very disagreeing. And he'd also use carnage. And again, I told you, carnage is lasciviousness. And so that's where he had a bloodthirsty will. He bit the blood of a woman, you know. And venom actually represents the flesh of the devil, and then the other one's the blood. You know, and carnage is the blood, you know. The venom of the mouth, the flesh, and then the blood. And he French kissed her, the Horseman, and that movie, and almost a bite of her flesh, and then you can see blood coming out. But anyways, the next person, after he took off their heads in the dream, the Headless Horseman, he put on a pumpkin for a head onto them and exploded. And then from that, I saw a Ghost Rider go through them and shot them through with his motorcycle and exploded and pierced them with metal. Well, a Ghost Rider represented emulations, trying to be like somebody, emulating somebody, because Ghost Rider was a copycat, basically, of Evel Knievel. And I think Nicolas Cage wanted to be just like him. The writers who wrote it really idolized him, but it was more like emulation, wanting to be like somebody, wanting to be them. Emulations, and so that's listed as one of the sins, the next sin on that. And I'm going by this order that I saw them, and it fits with the order of Galatians. And so that's exactly what Ghost Rider represented. I want to be Evel Knievel. The next person I saw that metal was lifted up out of them was Magneto. Well, he was, the next sin is listed as wrath, because Magneto was very wrathful about what people did to him. You know, he said in another movie, the guy that played him, "I'm Frankenstein's monster," you know. He was very wrathful, you know. He was very wrathful, and he just lifted them up and just slammed them on the ground because he was angry about what was done to him. And then the next one I can remember, if I can remember, was, I think it was Hydro. I'm trying to see if I can remember. Because you forgive me, I can't remember all these. I can't remember all of them. I do remember Hydro. And then I remember Electro. I can't remember what Hydro represented, but you just look up the next sin from the Horseman's, or I should say the Ghost Rider's emulation. The next sin after emulation would be what the Hydra represented. You know, the guy of water on Spider-Man. We turned that into water, so when they fell down, they went into water, and he was just shooting them through. And when that water was there, I saw the Thor's hammer lit up and electrocuted them in that water. Thor represented strife because, you know, he's a very strifeful, causes a lot of commotion. You know, there's chaos in the 9 realms in his movies. And he's really more of a commotion guy you can see in the comics, you know, just stirring up people and drunken brawlery, but more stirring up, you know, strife and everything. And then the next person I saw was Electro that fought with them. And that's for the next sin is listed seditions, because that's like rebelling against authority. Because you see Electro in that movie, he has that hood on and he almost looks like a punk kid stirring up authority. Even when I first saw the movie, is just, I loved that character. And I was like, he kind of looks like a little rebel, and like he's stirring up trouble, you know. And they kind of make him look hip. And he has that hoodie on that those kids wear. That's the whole Robin Hood mentality. Robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. And they tried to do, you know, kind of racial things. They try to play on people's fears and prejudices to get them going on that. But he represented sadism, you know, like rebelling against authority. That's what it represented. Electro, that's what it represented. Go back and look at his roles and you'll see that, you know. And I know there's been in slavery of people of certain color and everything, but you can see that. They try to manipulate that. That's what Satan does. He's a manipulator, guys. And the next thing, after him being electrocuted, was Electro. Let me see if I can remember. what it was. Oh yeah, and then Gambit. And the next sin is listed as heresy. And it was electrocuted, and he threw the playing card. Well, you know, they make up heresies of the Lord. It just means something that is not of the biblical faith and everything, such as gambling, which is, you know, that's, you know, because Gambit was a gambler, basically. Gambling with your soul, your salvation, saying you have time to... These are heresies in the Bible that say you can be of the Lord and a sinner at the same time, so you can follow Satan. These are heresies. And in the old days, they would burn people at the stake for heresy. And in hell, heretics are burning in hell. And so, you know, that Gambit card represents that fire. And they exploded. And when they landed, they exploded on Wolverine. He threw the card at Wolverine, and with them on it, a gigantic card, 2 gigantic demons. And I saw Wolverine slash it. And the next sin listed is envy, like jealousy. And who was more jealous, if you think about it, of all the Marvel heroes? It was Wolverine. He wanted Cyclops' wife. He was jealous of her. He was the one that was jealous. So the Lord listed him as that sin, that Wolverine demon, just slicing them, angry, like, you know, you took my woman from me. And you know, and it wasn't his to begin with. But after that, then I saw. I think he turned into Freddy Krueger, or no, he didn't turn into Freddy Krueger. I saw Freddy Krueger somehow, the claws. I zoomed into the claws, and then all of a sudden the claws turned around, and it was like they were Freddy's now, and it zoomed out, and it was Freddy, and he was clawing them. The next sin after that in the book of Galatians is listed as a murder, and Freddy was a murderer. He was a big murderer, guys. He was a big murderer. I mean, that's what I can think of. He wants to murder you. After that, he shish kebabbed them on his 4 claws because he's a gigantic demon. And there was a scene that came from a scene of hell. You know, somebody really went to hell. They saw some people getting shish kebabbed, turned into shish kebabs, and they pull them off and eat them. Well, he was shish kebabbing them. And even Freddy Krueger stabbed the pizza in the movies and took off heads. You could see heads of souls on the pizza. This is disgusting. But anyways, he did that. He shish kebabbed them. And I saw a grapple gun pull them off the shish kebab. It like pulled them off, you know, each of them off a grappling gun of the Dark Knight. And the next sin is listed as drunkenness. Because they that stumble in the night as if they can't see, as if the drunkards, it says. And Bruce Wayne was seen to be as a drunkard, you know, in the comic books. And so that represents that. Even if he didn't, he at least portrayed that. He's showing that sin of drunkenness of the night. And then after that, it pulled back out to Elliot Spencer finally, and he represented revelry. The pinhead, you know, teaching them just to give up on life. He teaches them that some say he's an angel, you know, they say his army of Cenobites, some say they're demons. They prefer just the word explorer, they're just travelers, you know, like these false aliens, this deception. And so it's reverings, you know, it's stuff that just made up, doesn't mean anything. Sins, you know, and spouting off nonsense and everything. But all these were the 17 kings of hell, guys, that I saw, you know. And they're going to be embodied in these 17 men. And these 2 beasts have them. 217, wow. That is crazy, guys. So the beast and the false prophet presses 17 kings, 217. You see room 217. Now I know in The Shining you have a fornicator in that room of 217. I believe it was it was 217 that actually showed when I looked up that number in the Bible. It's all associated with that number, like chapter 2, verse 17. Zechariah, something like that. Yeah, and other verses, or you can do 21:7, you know. Chapter 21, verse 7. But I saw it in those, and it represents working. Like, it says you need to build the temple of the Lord, it said. And so Jack, you know, that room 217 is most famous in that movie. Well, he would say, all work, no play makes Jack a dull boy. And so they're saying, don't build the house of the Lord. Don't build up the body of repentance. Just be lazy. Sit on your salvation. Just live it up. And so he didn't work, and he didn't work and build up his body and encourage himself. So what happened? He went crazy, tried to kill his family. And froze to death in the cold. And there's that cold for you. And the comment, and we're in the book of it, he actually burned down the boiler room, you know, and there's that boiler room of Freddy again, but he burned down the boiler room And I believe they did that in the sequel in Dr. Sleep in the movie. He burned it down, and so that's that hot. Remember I showed you that Pinhead was cold. You know, he's one of his nicknames is a cold man, and so I saw him in that classroom breathing, and it was like cold air. But then fire rose up, you know, and consumed everything, you know. And so I'm just sharing all this stuff to you. Let me know what you think about all this, guys. If you're getting any kind of revelation from the Lord, go back and look at the book of Galatians and those 17 works of the flesh, and listen to this video and look at those 7 and 10 horns. You know that's for 17 kings. And, you know, 7 and 10 times 10 also is 70, the 70-year captivity, you know. We come out of, we have to finish our transgressions. And you have 217 altogether. It represents the work of the Lord, you know. Or Satan saying, putting fornication, that room 217, you know. It's a body of fornication. And so I'm going to let you go, guys, but this is awesome revelation I'm getting, and this is just so I can write these books for you guys in the future. It's going to be written in the form of prophecy. I know it's just basic teaching, but it's going to be written the way prophecy written. And I haven't showed any of that stuff to you yet, guys, because I kind of mostly want it to be a surprise for that, but I'm just kind of showing you some concepts. But I love you guys. I'm going to let you go. Until next time, shalom.